Thanks for coming. Troy Brown is on his way. He is experiencing the joys of Boston driving at the moment, and so he's been a little delayed. However, his co-author, Mike Reiss, as many of you know from ESPN and other things that he's written, and he's here to talk to you a few moments while we wait for Troy to find his way to the store. But he is coming. We talked to him. He's on his way, so fear not. So, without further ado, I'll introduce one of the authors, Mike Reiss.
So, if Troy was still with the Patriots, he would be getting fined by the minute right now by Bill Belichick. We'll have him tell you the numbers, but I think he'd be up in the thousands right now. And I'm really going to get on him for this one because I came a lot further than him tonight. Yesterday, I was in Denver, and I took the red eye to get back so I could be there at 9 o'clock this morning to talk to Bill Belichick. He was very pleased to see me there, of course. And then we were in the locker room with the players. Today was sort of one of those sad days where they had the trash bags out, and they were cleaning out their lockers and sort of giving their final interviews. They had a final team meeting for the day at 1 o'clock, and then they were sort of on their way. So whenever we come out, Troy, myself, to speak to groups, talk about the book, we often open it up to questions, and we say, like, let's make this our own, sports talk radio area. You have questions, maybe I have answers. Tonight, maybe we could make it sort of like a sports therapy session, because that was tough. And I didn't see it coming. Denver always tough for the Patriots to play, but I really thought that they would be able to overcome this one, partially because of what we saw from Peyton Manning the week before, and also I thought they were healthier than they had been for some time. So very disappointing. I'm curious what's on your mind, because when Troy comes, Troy and I will sort of have a conversation and get you involved as well. But while we wait for him, I want to hear what questions you might have specific about the team, and then we can get into the book, and I'll just go around. But say your name when you ask it.
My name is Tom. My question is, would you have kicked a field goal?
All right. So Tom asked, would you kick a field goal? Let's set the scene. We got a 20-12 score, fourth quarter, 6:02 I think was on the clock, and it's 4th and 1. And I would have kicked a field goal. Now, it's always easier to say it after the fact, right?
I was saying it during.
And so you say it during, so I would have kicked the field goal. And the reason why is, you only have so many times you're down there, you want to make sure you get points. Now, I know what he was thinking. I kick a field goal, they get the ball back, and they kick a field goal. I'm right back where I started, and there's much less time on the clock. So he always thinks it through. He always has a reason for the decision. So, you can't, it's not reckless on his behalf, but it didn't work out for him. And I actually asked him that specific question today, and I said, knowing the result, obviously it didn't work out the way you hoped, but do you have any second guesses? And he said no, and at the time there was no hesitation. So he really was sort of standing by his call. So, yes.
Marcel. Would you second guess any of the coaching decisions in the 4 games prior? Meaning back to the Eagles game with the drop kick or whatever?
Definitely, yeah. So it's an interesting question, Marcel. So second guessing some of the coaching decisions because they had a chance at home field, right? Like if that game was played at Gillette Stadium, it's a different game. And the reason why is when you're in Denver with the noise and you're trying to run the offense the Patriots run, where you're spreading the field and you're operating on a silent count. The offensive lineman in front of Brady can't hear him. So you're operating on sort of a rhythm, a count. Hey, after the right guard, taps the center on the backside, 3 seconds later, the ball's going to be snapped. And everyone's got to sort of be in sync. Well, it's a lot easier to do that at home because you can hear the quarterback. You don't need that silent count. So the drop kick against Philadelphia, I didn't like. 14-0. You're in control. You're ready to bury the team. And I felt like you gave them a chance to get back in the game. I would have just played it safe there, They still had plays after that they could have made to stop them. There was a 3rd down right after that drop kick, 3rd and 10. I remember Sam Bradford made the throw. Make that play, and maybe we're not talking about the drop kick, right? So I always factor that in a little bit. And the Miami game was interesting because he played Brady, he played Gronkowski, he brought Devin McCourty and Patrick Chung, their starting safeties, back for that game from injury, right? They had, and it was sort of like, you know what? You can't dip your toe in the game of football. You're either all in or you're all out. And I felt like he sort of dipped his toe in a little bit, and it cost him the number 1 seed. So in retrospect, that's a big disappointment, So yeah, I think it's fair to second guess it. At the same time, like, be careful what you wish for, because there's not too many better than him. And coaches are going to make mistakes, Marcel, and he's human too. So.
Chris, what made the decision for leaving for Denver so short?
Yeah.
Because on Friday, as I heard when they left, and it is called Mile High Stadium for a reason.
For the altitude.
And I saw in the game, Gronk and other players were not used to it by then. So what made the decision for leaving so late?
Definitely. It's Chris?
Yes.
Chris. So if everyone heard the question, why did they left on Friday for a game on Sunday? Normally they would leave the day before, so they actually left a day earlier. But the reason why they don't leave even earlier, like spend a whole week there to get used to it, is like you need a facility that has a weight room, that has because these players have a very strict regimen that they go through every week. Where on Monday you're working your legs, on Tuesday it's this, on Wednesday it's this, and everything, and the facilities they have at Gillette Stadium, I mean, it's like really nice. You got saunas, steams, and there's, a training room, and so anywhere you go is going to be a step down. It's almost like, the Ritz-Carlton, if you're staying at a hotel, to, a lower, 1 star, if you will, or something like that. So I think part of it's staying around what you're comfortable with and where the players are used to their routine. So, good question. Yes. Definitely. Well, it's a great question. And if you heard Bill Belichick after the game, he actually mentioned that. If you listened, meaning anyone listened close enough, and he talked about how the pressure that Denver put on them with the pass rush, one way to sort of combat that pressure is to take the pressure off of your offensive linemen by handing the ball off and letting them run block, and now part of it is if they're not very good at it, it doesn't make sense to keep banging your head against the wall, right? But you talk to John Hanna or Logan Mankins, the offensive linemen through the years, what do they want to do? They want to fire off the ball and go,
That's all
right?
I can think of yesterday is if we had that offensive line from the Hanna's time with
Sure.
Brock and Leon Gray and those guys,
Yeah.
they would have been getting it done.
It's true, and it is a little bit of a different game now, right? So you still need to throw it, but here's the thing to know. They lost Dion Lewis, who was my favorite because he was about my size, and it's tough to find people in the NFL that are my size. They lost him to a torn ACL on November 8th, if I have the date right, against Washington. And then they lost LeGarrette Blount December 13th against Houston, and that was a hip injury. So they lost their top 2 backs. So, they're down to Brandon Bolden, who's really a special teams guy that can sort of every now and then get in the mix. And then they had James White, who to me is more of a receiver that's sort of like, with the run RB in front of his name for running back, but he doesn't make people miss. He might run away from them in space. And then, Steven Jackson, who they signed December 22nd. Great guy. But there's a reason he wasn't signed till December 22nd. So part of that's personnel, and that to me is one of their big things this offseason that they, will need to address. Even though Dion Lewis is coming back, when you're this size, you need to account for the fact that, like, this isn't built to last, And so, right? So I think it's a great point on the running game. I think they had, what did they have, like 17 carries for like 44 yards or something? It just wasn't enough. And it's
Too bad we don't have that first round pick, the kid
Yeah.
from Alabama, obviously.
yeah.
Given the Broncos give us a little more to think about?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think Dion Lewis would have made a bigger difference than LeGarrette, because I think this was a type of game where, like, you want to use their aggressiveness against them. They're so fast. Maybe, you're in the shotgun and you sort of hand it to Dion Lewis. And remember how fast he could get up to speed? And you sort of, they're coming, you hand it off, and there he goes. So I think that's probably what they missed more than LeGarrette. To me, LeGarrette was a little bit up and down this year, and that the difference between him and Steven Jackson, well, he was an upgrade from Steven Jackson. Maybe it wasn't as extreme as the difference between Dion Lewis and the next guy in that type of role.
My name's Brian.
Hey, Brian.
Any thoughts about the problems with the tablets? And any doubt that if it had gone the other way and theirs had worked and ours wouldn't?
Oh, my goodness. And imagine if the game was at Gillette Stadium and that happened. I mean, ESPN would, wait, did I just say that? So this was interesting to me on the tablets. So, because I don't know if you watched the Patriots All Access show, but they had a feature on the tablets, within the last month, and how the teams are using these tablets on the sideline instead of they would run back and get a hard, almost like an old Polaroid. And I knew the backstory from that was Bill Belichick actually sort of likes the pictures better than the tablet. Now, maybe that's because he's 63 going on 64, and he's not as comfortable as maybe someone from my generation, doing to magnify the picture. But his coaches, Matt Patricia, Josh McDaniels, are maybe more in that, more in this area. So right when it happened, I knew to Belichick, that's so not a big deal. Because I actually asked him that question this morning. They still had usage of the hard copy picture, so it wasn't a big deal to him. But I could see without that context, if it came over the TV broadcast, and I didn't hear the broadcast because I was at the game, that it might come across as, well, this is a big deal, these aren't working. And then there's my theory that anything that happens with the Patriots, people make it a big deal,
What do you think if the communication goes down on one side, the other side has to stop using it? And it seemed odd that this wasn't that kind of situation.
That's interesting. I didn't know that because this is really the first time that I had heard of that. But I guess if one team's isn't working, the other team can still use theirs because they have the usage of the pictures. So, yes. We'll do you and then right behind you. Yeah.
My name is Jamie.
Hey, Jamie.
Just to add to this gentleman's comment, actually, and to your comment, actually Brady was looking at pictures at one point, not at his tablet. So
Yes.
he apparently is still in the old school.
Yeah, yeah.
My question was in the locker room.
Yeah.
Gostkowski must be
Oh,
killing himself.
yeah.
How did the team, was he there, and how did the team respond?
I have to tell you, and the team, they have a lot of good people in that room. And I say that sort of like taking a step back, knowing that I don't know them intimately. And I always, one of the things that I learned with that was through the Aaron Hernandez situation. You think you might have a read on someone and you say, whoa, I never saw that coming, right? I don't know who would at that level, but I mean just in general. So I'll give you a visual of what I saw. First of all, Stephen Gostkowski, stand-up guy. That's not easy to stand up and take those questions. And I actually thought he was overdoing it because I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I know the way the game went, it would have been nice to have been able to kick an extra point instead of go for two. But what if Gronkowski didn't even catch that ball in the end zone? We're not even talking about, you know what I mean? So to me, there were so many things that had to happen from the missed extra point to the end of the game for that to sort of become...
Make it count.
You're right. Yeah. So I thought it was a little bit overdone, just from my own opinion. But the visual I want to give you was, his eyes were clearly, fighting back the tears. He's checking his phone, which I knew, he's with his wife and kids, and that's after he talked to us. And then the defensive coordinator, Matt Patricia, just went up to him and just gave him a huge hug. And it's like they look out for each other. They have each other's back. And you heard Tom Brady, if you were listening to him, said, he's the best. There's so many. We knew the situation. There's so many things that happen. Every single player we talked to had his back. So. Mia.
If I recall correctly, we won the toss.
Yes.
Why on earth did we break pattern and not defend?
I love it. I asked Bill that question today. So to me, that was like, why are you wearing the red hoodie in Super Bowl 42? Don't change, right? So it's a great question, and this is, first of all, this is why I love writing on the Patriots, and we're at a high level discussion here. I'm telling you, this doesn't happen at with other reporters that are covering other teams. That's why I love doing this. We care about our teams. They're part of who we are. So I asked Bill that, and not surprisingly, I didn't get a straight answer. he said it was a combination of factors. So my first thought was it the weather? Because there was the thought that maybe the second half would be played in rain, snow mix. Maybe he wanted to get out ahead. And he said, no, you know I don't put much stock in forecasts. So he leaves me to draw let's call it an educated conclusion maybe, that he wanted to get ahead of Peyton Manning and make him throw. Because to take away the running game, to try to put them in a compromising position early in the game to take them out of what they do best. And to me, that's almost overthinking it. Now, it's easy to say it now that we know the end result, but after they had the first 5 plays and punted, you're sort of like, oh, you don't have that advantage, that edge that you would have. You knew it, yeah. Same thing. Marcel, I just want to make sure if someone else has one, but doesn't. Yes.
Yeah, I was Jeff. I'm
Hey,
just
Jeff.
curious. Was Bill? It seemed like the Patriots were confused by what Denver was doing on defense, and all week they talked about the way you beat Brady is you rush 4 guys, they penetrate, you drop everyone back, and it certainly looked like that's what they were doing.
Yes.
And it didn't seem like there was any. I mean, maybe there's no answer to that, but.
Yeah.
Did that come up in your discussion with Bill on, was it a surprise?
Yeah.
Did you anticipate that?
I did. That's, again, another great question. I asked him, the specific question I asked him this morning was, did any of their tendencies surprise you? So, for example, let's say they're a 40% blitz team, which, sending, 5 or more was the number way down in this game. And he said they don't usually blitz out of their base defense, but they will pressure more out of their sub-defense. So, there you go. What's that? All right. You want me or you want Troy? All right. So Troy, we were just talking about, let me grab that. So I was saying how when we talk, we're going to leave this in here, how it's usually like sports radio.
Yeah.
But tonight, sports therapy.
What do you think? I think we all need it.
Yeah.
We all need it.
So,
What's your thoughts?
Hey.
What's your summary about
last night? Last night was just, I thought the Patriots just got outplayed by a team that was more prepared than they were, and you got to give Wade Phillips and Kubiak and that staff for putting together a great game plan to combat what the Patriots love to do and what they do best. They actually did what Belichick does to other teams, is take away what they do best and, what makes them successful. So they did a great job of doing that, and you got to give their players, especially those guys on defense, for being able to go out and execute it without making any mistakes. So that's the tough part. You can have a great plan, but you also got to have the guys that go out and do it well, and they just got beat last night by a better team, so. But I will say this, anybody that says that Tom Brady's soft and he's a crybaby, they need to rethink that statement, because he took a beating like I've never seen before and still almost sent his team into overtime with a pretty good defense there.
I don't want to talk about their game last night.
I love it.
I have to run to go to teach a spin class. So I want to can you talk a little bit about, you're somebody that has really had to overcome a lot, not drafted, all that. Like, talk about adversity and having to persevere and overcome that.
That it's something that I always kind of approach with a positive attitude and adversity, problems, whatever it may be. I think one of the first things that I try to do is identify what the problem is or what the hurdle is. And then I spend very little time on that. And I spend the majority of my time on the solution and executing it. So I think that's what gets me over the hump. It's what I did when I was young, it's what I do now. And because I think we all, no matter what it is, we tend to spend a lot of time talking about what the problem is, and they don't like me, I'm too short, I'm too slow, and So I went out and I tried to get faster, I went out and I tried to jump higher, whatever it may be. I tried to catch the ball better. So you just spend more time on the solution once you get identified, and then I think if we approach many other things the same way, we'd be in a better shape in a lot of places. But, so I don't really let adversity affect me in a negative way or anybody else around me in a negative way. So I try to stay upbeat about it and approach it and take care of the problem. Yes, sir.
You talk about your perspective as you work for the media now a little bit, and then your perspective as a player. Has your perspective changed at all?
It has, I flipped over to the dark side. We call it the dark side, and so as a player, those guys over there, but they love Mike though. I mean, Mike's he's like the guy that they like to approach and talk to and share things with. So, he's an approachable guy, and the great thing about Mike is I think they appreciate about him is that, he writes his opinion without bashing guys. And if he has to write something about negative about a guy, then he does it. And I think the guys respect that more than you see some other guys like what a buffoon, what a donkey, So it's so I think the guys really respect that from Mike. He does a great job of doing what he does, as you can tell by what he did on the book. He's a great writer and a great reporter as well. So. But I think for me, the biggest difference is that I try to not to get too close to the players, and I try not to go in to that area too often and be biased or be I feel like I'm invading their space and then going back to the dark side, and I feel like I'm taking information back with me. So that's the thing I still struggle with today with is that, I gotta figure out where that line is with those guys and how I want to approach it and what I talk about when I'm on air. So you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So it was that's the difficult part that I deal with is that space. Where's that line?
How about the 3 coaches you worked under? Any thoughts, comparisons? Positive.
Yeah, all 3 Super Bowl winning coaches. Pete Carroll, Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick. I think all great minds for the game. A couple had a different way of doing things and approaching things. Pete was really upbeat and energetic, and those guys were more demanding in your face type stuff. So, and more of the disciplinarian kind. So. But they all had their unique way of doing things, and really figured out how to get the best out of their players, and it shows.
Right down the middle.
Yes, sir.
Could have used it yesterday.
Well, I don't know if I could play right tackle or left tackle, so I don't know.
Just one play.
I mean,
that's all it takes.
Yeah, so I could have came out and helped Tom Brady up off the field a couple times. But, yeah. Oh gosh, you play 15 years, you collected quite a few of them, so. There's yeah, I mean the Marlon McCree strip in 06 to get us into the AFC Championship game in 06, so that was a huge play. Making a couple of those catches on some of those last drives in the Super Bowl 38 and in 36, to get us in position to kick a field goal, and the punt return against Pittsburgh in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
And Mike's favorite is back in '96 to get us home field advantage in that playoff, playing against the Giants in the last regular season game and sliding on my back to catch a ball that was slightly behind me. So I can think of a few. Yeah. We can go on and on about that all night. Yeah.
Back when you were playing defense, you had a terrific quote that was unlike any football quote. You said something like, you just show up at work and you look what's on your desk and then you do whatever's got to be done.
Yeah, man, I get to work and I see what's there to be done.
Yeah, but most people, of course, have their regular job they do all the time. You did everything.
Yeah,
I was always just curious.
We were just,
How much did you like playing?
I love playing. So whatever they asked me to do and I had a chance to get on the field, I was going to do that. I covered kicks. I was the fullback on the punt team and having to block big guys. And I was a gunner at one point in my career covering kicks like Matthew Slater. I did that for a while. I was the guy that held up the gunner for a while. Whatever it was, man, I just wanted to play. I mean, it just reminded me of being a kid again. You know, when you're a kid and you're a decent player, to try to put you on everything and you never leave the field. So that's as close as I got to that feeling again. Is just feeling I just had fun, enjoyed what I did, you know, and
Just never get the chance like you did.
so but I had, just wanted to enjoy the moment. Yep.
Mike, quick question.
Yes, sir. No, I never had a coach to tell me that. I know what you're saying. I think about that all the time when I see guys get tackled on the 9 as opposed to getting tackled on the 3. A 2 or getting tackled outside of the 10. You got a chance to pick up another first down. I've never had a coach tell me that. And because I think it takes away from the aggressive nature of trying to get every inch you can. It's a game of inches, and you come up a little bit short, like yesterday. So.
Did you play football when you were a kid?
I sure did. I started playing when I was in the 2nd grade. I still look okay, don't I?
All right.
Yeah.
Did you want to sneak one in before?
When you started playing defense, was that at all your idea, or were you just asked to do it? And did you go to the coach and say?
It was all my idea. All the things that work well are my ideas. So. Doing this book was my idea too. Yeah. No, actually, it was just something that I talk about it in there as well. Is that it's something that just as a player you joke around and you guys at different positions, and Ty Lowe and myself just. I can play receiver, and I'm like, well, I can play DB. You don't have to get open, you just go back there and bat the ball down, So, and there's stuff like that, And Eric Mangini, who was the secondary coach at the time, he was always around and listened to the conversation, and I'm sure he must have ran that by Belichick at some point, because that went on for years. So, and I was just sitting in my locker one day and minding my own business and getting ready to go out to practice, and there he approaches me with this thing saying, you got to know how to do all these things when you get out on the field. I had 15 minutes, basically 10, 15 minutes to get ready to do that, So, and again, I didn't see it as a problem. And if it was a problem, I just saw what I had to do and adjusted my mind and got myself ready to go out and execute.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, anyone? You
You
good?
Okay.
Well, I apologize, guys, for being late, but there's.
How much would Belichick fine you?
That would be about.
Show us your ring, please.
Well, it may be that could end up being a game check. So, yeah. But I have a high school son that's applying to colleges and everything. So, and trying to get him straightened out, and then my GPS actually took me the wrong way off the highway. So I went like 5 rounds around direction. So I apologize. Sorry. But that might be a good idea for me. So you lose signal, you're screwed. It's what can you do? Yeah.
I'm not. Oh, you look good.
Well, obviously, they shared your thoughts. Thanks a lot.